looking like Boston Dynamics robots that can run across a field at speed.
So like this is what I think all robot, like if we do get to a point where robots work in like the service industry and shit, this is exactly what I think they'd need to look like. They don't need like a fucking face that emotes at me. Have you seen scamming people out of $4 billion? Isn't it about the North Korean hack? It's not a scam, right? No, I don't think I've seen this. I've never even heard of this story. Scamming poor people out of $4 billion. Holy shit. They scam every poor person in the world? My god.
Meet Joe Low. At just 28 years old, he managed to steal over $4.4 billion in straight cash from the Malaysian government,
Holy shit.
making him have more spending power than anyone else on Earth. This is a story of how an average teenager from an average town became an international playboy, financed the Wolf of Wall Street movie on his very own private jets, stole billions from a sovereign wealth fund, becoming a global fugitive in the process that's still on the run, all before his 35th birthday.
And now, Joe Low is on the lam.
Low is wanted to face criminal charges over the 1MDB scandal.
The huge mega yacht, that part of our money should be returned
celery and
to Malaysia.
Let me explain. Joe Low.
Alright, I don't mean to blue ball you, but just give me 1 second. I'm fucking back. Alright, let's ride.
Was born into a well-off family. Definitely not billionaire kind of rich, but the I sent my kids to international boarding school kind of rich. His family put a lot of importance on education and sent him to some of the best schools in England and the US, which meant Joe Low rubbed shoulders with actual wealthy families, Middle Eastern royalty, old money trust fund babies, and the kind of kids that would expect a supercar and a performance by Britney Spears for their birthday. He made friends with other Malaysian rich kids, and even called himself the Malaysian prince at school. All Joe Low ever wanted was to be accepted into high society. He would spend hours researching cool music and hairstyles, blew off school, and did anything he could to make his rich friends respect him more. But it was never enough.
You're telling me this guy was researching cool music and hairstyles and then went with like the most generic NPC hairstyle imaginable? Are you kidding me? Bro, he could have done like a giant mohawk, cornrows, man, I don't know. What the fuck is this? No frosted tips or anything? It's like he didn't even try.
Styles, blew off school, and did anything he could to make his rich friends respect him more. But it was never enough. He was still an outsider.
Let me give some coffee.
You see, his life among the wealthy elite had taught him one thing. Wealth and influence, or even just the appearance of it, opens doors. And this lesson would make Joe Low one of the greatest con men the world has ever seen.
Joe Low is a great name for someone who's gonna scam people for $4 billion. It just really rolls off the tongue. And the resub Chomper and Nox.
Joe Low was born on a small Malaysian island called Penang. His family came from China, and his dad had made millions investing in a clothing manufacturing business. So Joe and his siblings were sent off to Harrow School in London, one of the most prestigious schools in the world, founded all the way back in 1572. Here, Joe got his first taste of real riches. His family's villa and millions seemed like a lot in Malaysia, but next to the kids of Middle Eastern oil tycoons and European royalty, the small wealth his family had started to look like chump change. He knew that if he could just make the right friends in the right places, he would be one step closer to joining the wealthy elite himself. So he lied about almost everything. About how much money his family had, who he was, where he lived, anything to get in with the rich kids. And it worked. One of his best friends at Harrow was Riza Aziz, the stepson of a Malaysian government official who would become essential to his scheme. Everyone craves to feel important. Make people feel important, and they'll become addicted to the drug that is you. So he played on that. And when he wasn't busy wooing the rich kids, he was plagiarizing reports from the Wall Street Journal for his school's newspaper. For some reason, no one noticed.
Why is that helpful?
And Joe got the reputation of being a genius stock picker, all the while copying word for word what other people wrote. His plan was working. He was making all the right friends and building up his socialite persona far away from home. So when he graduated, instead of looking for work at an investment firm or bank, he decided to start a company of his own. Little did he know the opportunities that were about to come his way. He was planning to win tons of money, Winton, so the name stuck. He used his new Middle Eastern friends to get a meeting with the guys who ran Abu Dhabi's Sovereign Wealth Fund. You can think of a sovereign wealth fund as basically a government's hedge fund. They try to grow that money through investments to, in theory, reinvest back into the country. And Joe Low getting his foot into the door of Abu Dhabi's Sovereign Wealth Fund was a really big deal because it's one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the world. Today it has nearly $700 billion, which is as big as Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. At his initial meeting with the fund, Joe realized something crazy. One of the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the world was run by just two young guys, both in their late 20s at the time.
What? You're telling me this guy is in his late 20s? What? No chance. At the time. I figured he would have used like a young photo of him. This I could believe. I guess this is like a modern photo of him then? I thought they'd take like a picture of him at the time.
Two young guys, both in their late 20s at the time. This got him thinking. Malaysia had a sovereign wealth fund, but nothing like Abu Dhabi's. Abu Dhabi's could also borrow money to invest. You could invest with leverage. If these two 20-something-year-olds could run Abu Dhabi's, why couldn't he run Malaysia's? But to do that, he would need someone with a lot of influence to back him up. But luckily, his years of networking had given him the perfect person. His best friend from school's stepfather, the Malaysian government official Najib Razak. At the time, Najib was Malaysia's deputy prime minister, just one step away from the top position. Even if he didn't have the power to hand over Malaysia's money to Joe, he was in a high enough position to give him all the support he needed. Joe Low just needed to get his attention. By luck, around the same time Joe Low was seriously looking for a way to get into Najib's good graces, Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund, called Khazanah, was looking for investors for a construction project. Joe immediately called his friends in Abu Dhabi and got them to agree to a meeting. Cleverly, he offered Najib all the credit if the deal went through, and when it eventually did go through, he became the deputy prime minister's favorite money man. Najib's newfound popularity for making deals happen helped him become the prime minister in 2009. Joe Low had bided his time and paid his dues. Now it was time to cash in.
Can you please change this video to something else not so boring? What do you want, Krispy Kreme? Scamming $4 billion is apparently not exciting. What do you want? Is it gonna be like some meme compilation? Best anime fights of 2019? This is your time, Cream. You put it in caps locked and tagged me, so you really wanted me to see it. So what do you want? NFL Big Hits compilation. Thanks for the bit, Sinister. Yeah, he said, 2 seconds, I'm looking it up, which means it's gonna be trash. Thanks for the bit, Sweeper, but I'm excited. Okay, this guy just, he's really fucking panicking or something, I don't know. Thanks for the resub resume.
After Najib became prime minister, Joe Low found himself in a position of unlimited influence, and he wasted no time using it. As soon as Prime Minister Najib was sworn in, he approached him with the idea of creating a new sovereign wealth fund that would work just like the ones in the Middle East. Najib had complete trust in Joe's abilities, so he agreed. They called it the One Malaysia Development Berhad, or the 1MDB Fund. It was supposed to invest in green energy and tourism jobs. Najib was the fund's chairman, and Joe Low an unofficial advisor. Joe had the prime minister in the palm of his hand. Joe had helped him reach the highest point in the Malaysian government, so whatever Joe requested was as good as done. Just imagine the kind of power you could have if you had the prime minister of any country in the palm of your hands. Just 2 months after 1MDB was created,
but he didn't really do anything.
Joe Low had convinced Najib and his wife that he had the key to Middle Eastern investments and introduced them to a Saudi Arabian prince. The only problem was this prince was no real prince and had no access to the oil money 1MDB were chasing after. The prince and Joe discussed 1MDB investing in the national oil company Petro Saudi, but here's the thing, the money they made wouldn't just go towards developing Malaysia, but it would also go towards the prime minister. The prime minister would be able to use the money for whatever political purpose he wanted. The idea of so much money at the prime minister's disposal must have been tempting, because it didn't take that much time for Najib to agree, and the deal of a lifetime was on. 1MDB would invest $1 billion into Petro Saudi. Just 1 month after meeting for the first time, the joint venture between 1MDB and Petro Saudi was signed. Joe Low had just successfully gotten permission to transfer a whopping $1 billion in cash from Malaysia's bank account to another bank account. But here's the thing,
why?
Joe was the one in charge of transferring that cash, he could obfuscate the
just let anyone do it if they're nice?
Where it looked like the Saudis got their $1 billion, but in reality, it went into his own pockets. See, Joe was smart. He had filled 1MDB staff with people loyal to him. So when the time came, they arranged for just $300 mil of that $1 billion to be transferred into the actual joint venture account with Petro Saudi, while the rest of the $700 million flowed not to the Petro Saudi joint venture, but to Good Star Limited, a shell company with a bank account in Switzerland. The shell company was based in the Seychelles, a tiny yet infamous secrecy haven. Good Star Limited was what's called a bearer share company, meaning that whoever held the physical stock certificate, whoever held that literal piece of paper in their hands, owned the company. And who do you think held onto the single stock certificate of Good Star Limited? Joe Low. And this shell company that is very hard to connect to Joe Low just got $700 million richer. In exchange for the magic trick, Joe Low paid over $100 million to his two friends in Abu Dhabi. And after it was all said and done, Joe Lo has successfully pulled off one of the greatest financial frauds in history and was now halfway there to becoming a billionaire. How did he get away with this? He explained that Malaysia had to repay a debt before the joint venture could continue, and Gusto Limited was actually a company owned by the Saudis. I mean, I don't understand how all this high finance works. I guess I'll just believe what our sovereign wealth manager says. But Joe Lo was far from done.
I just can't believe how easy it must be. All he does is just say like, yeah, I'll do it. And then you're like, okay, cool. They don't even like ask anything else.
With one successful con under his belt,
Super
Joe
Bowl
started
commercial
looking for
am I in,
more. 600 million was great and all, but there was still opportunity to make even more. So Lo focused on his next targets. Tim Lesnar, head of Goldman Sachs Asia division. He had given him the special treatment he learned in school, he flew him out to Abu Dhabi, got him meetings with one of the richest sheiks in the world, and made sure he had the complete luxury experience. Why was Tim Lesnar a target? Because he was about to get $1MDB $3.5 billion from bond sales to buy coal power plants. They were going to package these power plants into one company and go public on the Malaysia Stock Exchange. Joe hoped this money would help cover 1MDB's losses. The only problem was, 1MDB had no credit rating, so bond sales were almost impossible. Which is where Tim Lesnar came in. He knew the right people to bribe to get the company listed, and that's exactly what he did.
Super Bowl promo called
Over the next few
Everyone's
years,
Here.
Goldman Sachs gave 1MDB over $5 billion.
How would there already be a Super Bowl promo out? Super Bowl halftime show? This is an 18-minute video from like a random channel with 9 views. This is absolutely just your channel. But nice, we fucking made it!
$1 billion from bond sales. Every time they sent the money, a lot of it would be siphoned off into offshore accounts owned by Joe Lo. He paid the Prime Minister and Tim Lesnar's their cuts and kept the rest for himself. Joe Lo was still in his 20s at the time, and he had played his scheme so well that he had governments and massive corporations eating out the palm of his hand, and his offshore bank accounts ballooned to billions. Now it was time to enjoy the fruits of his labor.
And then he funds Wolf of Wall Street. So he just took 4.4 billion from governments. I don't know why he's saying poor people. It seems like it just comes from governments. For most of the billionaires you see on the Forbes list, most of their net worth is tied up in company stock, like Elon with Tesla or Bezos with Amazon stock. But Joe Lo was different. His $4.4 billion was in straight hard liquid cash. He had more spending power than anyone on earth. Joe Lo had finally made it. He was rich, and not just comfortable kind of rich. Oh no, Joe Lo was obscenely rich, and now it was time to party. He would buy out clubs, throw secret parties with people like Leonardo DiCaprio and Paris Hilton, and even gave Kim Kardashian a Ferrari as a wedding gift. He bought a private jet, luxury yachts, and multi-million-dollar mansions all over the US, but not even that was enough. In an incredibly ironic move, Joe Lo pretty much financed the entire Wolf of Wall Street movie with money he stole from the Malaysian governments. Seriously, not making this up. He was such great friends with Leo that he gifted him millions of dollars of rare arts. Back in Malaysia, people were asking questions about the 1MDB fund and how the money was being used. But with the Prime Minister on his side, he didn't really have much to worry about. He bought the Prime Minister's wife millions in jewelry, financed the Prime Minister's political campaigns, and was always around when Najib needed advice. In exchange, the Prime Minister didn't care how much Joe took out of the fund. For Joe, there was nowhere to go but up. All he had to do was keep Najib in power, and he could keep spending. So he let the Prime Minister hand out millions to charities and throw massive campaign events on an almost limitless budget, all coming out of that shit must have been lit.
Joe Lo was untouchable, or so he thought.
Till one day they asked, hey, what does Joe Lo do? And no one had an answer. Like, I could immediately see how this all comes crumbling down.
By this point, 1MDB went from apparently having billions to having 10 billion in debts and only $20 million in cash.
Ooh.
Joe Lo pulled a desperate move. He tried to make 1MDB shares public, hoping that the public would come flocking to buy shares and give him some cash to work with, but that didn't work. He and Goldman Sachs' Tim Lesnar had become so caught up in the money and success that they were blind to the trouble they were about to face. And trouble came quicker than expected. By 2015, a Swiss banker named Javier Justo leaked over 230,000 confidential emails to the press. In this massive data dump was the information that would bring Joe Lo's scheme to light. A journalist for the Sarah Walker Report published an expose linking Joe Lo
literally just said, "I'll do it,"
to the disappearing money of 1MDB.
Doesn't seem that deep.
This caused a civil war in the Malaysian government.
Najib
and Joe denied doing anything wrong, but that didn't help. Hundreds of thousands of Malaysians protested against Najib and his government, but Najib still had faith he could stay in power and that everything would be fine. But as expected, he lost the next election and was arrested for trying to flee the country in 2018. And Joe Lo, he was long gone. Almost $1 billion of the money he stole had been seized, but Joe himself has disappeared into thin air.
Joe!
All we know for sure today is that he's somewhere in China. His love for luxury and fame didn't die down though, as he's sometimes spotted in clubs or private parties, only to disappear soon after.
The
last widely reported sighting of him in the news was ironically in Wuhan, back in February 2020, when the world was getting really riled up.
Thanks to the bit snow. He could be at any club at any time.
Joe Lo was able to pull off one of the greatest heists in history is because government funds are not transparent at all. Here is how it works.
Clearly.
The government takes money from you at the point of a gun in the form of taxes, and they'll say it's for important infrastructure. Think airports, hospitals, research facilities, or California's high-speed rail that burned through $100 billion.
Partying.
Projects that provide people with electricity, housing, water, healthcare, internet, transportation, etc. And then they funnel your money into private companies that build that infrastructure. The problem is, in many cases, the only companies that get these contracts are the friends and families of the politician.
Good for Joe! He really fucked us. But he's... Watch the best anime of 2021. Why would I do that? Why would I watch just the best of anime? Look into Addison Rae's skincare brand. Why? Is there something crazy with it? Is it one of those things that uses like like baby foreskin or whatever? Oh, I see. Addison Rae going with the Valkyrie approach. Blue light blocking skincare. Why is this on .esports? Does Addison Rae do more than dance on TikTok? Does she also compete at League of Legends at a high level or something? Does blue light even affect the skin? No. All the publicly available studies indicate that it does not damage your skin. But it's just a really good marketing ploy, which is why the Valkyrie one it would have popped off if there wasn't so much backlash. Addison Rae, though, is much smarter because her audience is much younger. They have no idea what blue light is. They'll just buy it because Addison Rae said so. Yeah, we can do some Mr. Nightmare later. I want to see this humanoid robot.
You might have seen a video doing the rounds of a grey robot that looks ultra lifelike. Is it real? Is it fake? Well, at CES 2022, Amica the robot was on show, and let me tell you, the experience of interviewing this robot was very uncanny.
It doesn't seem that realistic. I wouldn't be confusing this for a human.
So Morgan,
for entertainment, is for communication, and is for interaction with
the robot
other
looks
people.
so nervous.
Amica is the pinnacle of what we can do, but it's still not exactly like a human.
Is there some
We didn't want to make it look
Laverne,
exactly like a human. We wanted to make it look like a robot. It's the vision of what
Tier 1
humans
Asher.
see humanoid robots in the future. You've seen all of the films. They all look like this.
Such a good movie.
So design something.
Hello, my robot.
if you can call them eyebrows, how did you actually build the robot to look so
Why is it
human with
winking?
those
Is it flirting right now?
Well, what we do is we first look at a real
It looks like
human.
me when I used to get
It's what we
blackout
call
drunk but
animation
pretend
first.
I was still
So
sober.
What does a real human do? Automate
LA
those
Noir
expressions,
facial expressions.
because whatever an
True.
animatronic do looks lifelike. So Amica's got quite a few motors in its head. But we can see Amica going through some facial expressions now, opening her mouth. A big wide smile is one of the things that we want Amica to do. So
she's so happy.
Big smile, Amica. Moving around in a human space, that's going to come in the future. Well, I'm talking probably 10
Robots
years
just don't
before
really
you're actually
need
gonna
a
see something like
face,
this
though.
walking amongst us.
Like, what benefit does that provide?
In, say, 10, 20 years from now, that we could see Amica robots walking, running, dancing, climbing? Are they going to start looking like Boston Dynamics robots that can run across a field at speed?
So, this is what I think all robots... if we do get to a point where robots work in, the service industry and shit, this is exactly what I think they'd need to look like. They don't need, a fucking face that emotes at me. I don't need to wonder if my waitress is a human or synth, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of resources. Just make it functional. Doctor.
So what kind of level of artificial intelligence have you baked in terms of the communication capabilities and
Amica's fully
understanding and responding, even speaking to you?
We even gave her a soul.
There's some artificial intelligence, and most of the artificial intelligence at the minute that is on Amica is revolving around the vision system. So Amica does actually have a camera in each of its eyes, so it can see what's going on. So it can detect people, it can track their face, it can detect other objects. such as my finger. It can follow my finger around.
It's pretty slow on the
wave at
response.
it. And then it can see it move backwards then.
What did you kind of think of the internet's response to Amica?
It's
Exodus
the
of Hinlow
emotion
and
and
Prime
how it
Titan.
moves, and the emotion that you get out of the face. Suddenly, that just sparked something in the social media universe, and we were incredibly surprised that overnight it became a sensation. We got 24 million views on one Twitter post, and Elon Musk even commented on that post. So incredible response, and
Yeah, it was a pretty good response, I guess.
now. This is the first time this has been shown off in public, and we're expecting to be very busy showing off Amica. What we found was when you try and make it look ultra lifelike to our other Mesmer line, it looks a bit more sinister because it's right in the uncanny valley.
Oh!
But actually, when we create Amica,
Oh, is that an
pulled it
orgasm bot?
backwards out of the uncanny valley because it looks less human, because it's plastic, because it's metal, and because it's of grey skin.
Yeah, true. I could
When
see
you're
why.
demoing Amica, what are some of your favorite things to do to kind of show the power of that interaction and just
Thank
how
you, Risa Brown.
impressive those lifelike features are?
Yeah, so as we've demonstrated the reacting to personal space, but we can also talk to Amica. So I can say, hello Amica, how are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
Oh, Amica.
We can
you shut the fuck up?
We've
So
created
talkative.
Amica,
Jesus Christ.
so it's more lifelike than any other robot.
Well, as a robot, I actually don't feel anything at all. But if I did feel, I would feel happy to be here.
Do you see a robot like this becoming an accepted part
very
of our
Skynet.
lives? Do you see it maybe being something I might ask a question of at the airport, or would I have an Amica robot in my home helping me out?
Can do many tasks, just like a human. But there are other robots that you can get that will do those tasks.
Yeah, Roombas are
a
classic.
lot better because they're designed for the job.
Yeah.
And a lot cheaper, and you can get them today. So
These are Prime
why
software.
would you buy a humanoid robot that will probably cost more than your house? But I'm going to say right now, I don't think you'll have one of these in your home in the next decade.
What does it feel
Shame.
like to work on
What a
something that's
shame.
had such a huge response and to be at that bleeding edge of robotics? Is it something you tell your mates down in the pub that you're working on a robot that could one day be the future of society in robotics?
It's a fantastic thing to do. It's a fantastic technology.
I don't
to
know
be
when you can
a
fuck
part
it.
of
I didn't make the
developing.
Amica robot.
And
Jesus Christ.
I
Ask
hope
him.
over the next 10 years.
But better yet,
we
ask
continue
Amica.
Innovating and continue to spark people's imagination and continue with this.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Amica, for being here.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.
All right, tell me what you think about Amica the robot. Totally freaked out, or is it really, really cool?
I'd say it's a blend of both. I think she was awesome. She was great, really. Very human-like. Watch some Nuke's Top 5. He hasn't posted anything new. Apparently people really wanted me to watch Mr. Nightmare. They all say Nuke Top 5 is baby shit. Mr. Nightmare is the real scary stuff. So you know what? Let's prove that I'm not a little milk-drinking, diaper-pissing baby. We'll watch Mr. Nightmare. Let's do 3 creepy emails.
You ever check your spam folder in your email? There's a chance at one point you received an email with one of your passwords in the title, and inside the email would be threats of leaking your information or worse unless you paid a certain
What does it have to
ransom,
do with
usually in
ghosts?
Bitcoin. This usually happens when a hacker, or even often a regular user, will likely find this info by merely searching any of the numerous data breach databases available on criminal forums. In March of 2019, a 25-year-old man named Joe Albanese received a similar email to what was just described. It was titled his password that he used for every account that he had.
A
This
ghost
was obviously
hacker.
a cause for alarm, so he opened it immediately to read the contents of the email. This is what it said. Hey Joe, all you really need to know is that I know your password and other personal information. I won't come after you, I won't harm you, as long as you send me a small amount of money, $5,000 in the form of Bitcoin.
Aww.
We're gonna refer to it as a donation for a good cause, not as any kind of blackmail.
That's a good way of
The
looking
Bitcoin
at it.
address is, if you don't send me the money, bad things may happen. Don't even bother going to the police. This email is untraceable.
This has the same energy as a call I got when I was like 22. I had just got an apartment. I was on my own, and like it was pretty early. It was probably like within the first month or two. I got a random fucking call from a dude, and he's like, "Hey, your mom just hit my brother with her car." And I was like, "Oh my god, Mom, what are you doing? You can't, you're driving like shit out there." He's like, "Look, I'm going to need you to bring a lot of money to cover these medical bills, and I'm going to need you to bring it now." And then he gave me like a local gas station. I was like, "Okay, Jesus Christ, all right, just please, oh my god, I'll call the police." He's like, "Don't you dare call the police, I swear to God, I don't want to get violent. But what your mom just did to my brother is unforgivable, and I'm only going to allow this to slide if you bring the money to me now over at this gas station. I'm keeping your mom here. She's safe. She's fine." I was like, "Can I talk to her?" "Nope." And I was like, "Okay, this is getting fishy," but I was still panicked. And then eventually I was like, "Hey, just give me a second." Then I called my mom and she's like, "Hey, what's up, Charles?" Like, "Hey, Mom, did you hit a kid with your car today?" She's like, "Nope." So then I went to the other guy. I was like, "Hey, man." And then I hung up. That shit works, though. I guarantee if I was like a year younger, not quite as wise as 22, I would have fallen for it. I would have went right to that gas station and got my ass beat. Then I would have been pissed at my mom. I'm like, "Man, Mom, what the fuck?"
Joe did some research and learned that these kinds of threatening emails are common scams, and usually nothing will come of them. Still, Joe replied to the email asking,
27.
"What other personal information of mine do you currently
He's a tier
possess?
1
I'd
Vega
love to
boy.
know." He sent this as a sort of challenge to the email, not even really expecting a response or for it to even go through. But it did, and he promptly received a response back saying, "I know your home address is F. If you go to the police, I will know about it and you will be sorry." He decided to wait it out and see what would happen next, and after 3 days, there was a follow-up email saying, "I'm still waiting for the payment. I won't wait much longer." Joe replied this time saying, "I'm not paying you $5,000. If you want to come to my
Damn,
house,
Joe!
of lead." This was a complete bluff though, as he doesn't actually own a gun, and the hacker likely knew that because that same night, Joe received a follow-up email containing a picture of his house. It was the side of his parents' house and zoomed in on his bedroom window upstairs. He didn't want to tell his parents in fear of worrying them, but now that his gun bluff didn't work, he knew he may have to get them or the police involved.
He's a tier 1
He
dread.
responded one more time saying, "I don't have $5,000. I'm broke paying off student loans. The house you sent a picture of is my parents' house. They did nothing wrong. If you need to do this, please do it to someone else. I don't have the money to send you even if I wanted to." There was no response this time, but within an hour, the sound of glass shattering from downstairs traveled throughout the house. And everyone, including his parents, heard it. There was one of their decorative bricks from the front of the house, laying in the dining room among thousands of tiny shards of glass from the broken
Fuck is this,
window.
Hitman?
Joe tried to explain the situation as quickly as he
brick?
could, and while he and his dad took a quick look outside for anyone who could be out there, his mother called the police. Joe showed the police officers the emails and everything, which were forwarded to the police department. A police officer stayed parked outside the Albanese house for a couple hours that night. Joe blocked the email address from sending any further emails, and as far as he knew, he was never contacted again. Sent from an untraceable device, likely an iPod Touch or similar device.
Very specific. Why an
At some
iPod
point,
Touch?
everyone imagines being famous in their lives. A
Here's
lot
the
of people
Prime
create
Impala.
this image in their head that being in the public eye creates for nothing but a fairy tale life. But that's far from the truth. Being under the spotlight in
Executive
any
Elite.
capacity comes with a lot of drawbacks, one of which being stalkers and overly obsessed fans. One extreme case of this, an ex-radio host and DJ who was centered in Los Angeles, had a long, seemingly never-ending chain of emails from an obsessed fan. It started around 2005 or 2006 when the DJ started noticing a regular listener, someone who listened to the show every day and would call in on the request line from time to time. At one point, the listener won a prize from the show, and in order to deliver the prize, the DJ requested her email, and that's where things began. In order to be polite and cordial with the girl, he would answer all of her emails, and when Facebook started to become popular, he added her back where she commonly liked and commented on his posts. This was
a wholesome story. Now they're married.
One day the fan professed her love for him.
Oh.
The DJ rejected this advance in the most polite way he could. She seemingly accepted the rejection, and the DJ thought it would be the end of it. But it wasn't. In 2011, she emailed him a link to a blog that she was writing, where she would post about him and their quote-unquote love multiple times per day. The DJ started sending DMCA requests to her blog host from the photos of his that she had posted. The repeated violations got her blog shut down, but then she started emailing him instead of posting blogs. He made a filter folder so he never would have to see them aside from occasionally peeking at the insanity in the folder from time to time, just out of curiosity. Years went by and he hadn't answered any of her emails after 2 of them when he very adamantly told her to stop all communications and leave him alone. This continued for years, and in total she has sent him over 4,000 emails, all of which he's archived. This is a picture of just a select few of them. The more recent emails had gotten very dark and violent in tone.
Whoa, damn, these are pretty intense. Oh, she made a typo. 4,000 emails? How many of them are full of typos? You kidding me? You got me fucked up. Shove it where the sun don't shine, or according to In Mandy's vagina. Fuck off. Get lost, Janet motherfucking Jackson. Kiss my ass. Well, yeah, this is just mental illness. Yeah, that's rough.
Most disturbingly, she sent the DJ photos of a shrine she had made of him in her home, with framed photos of his
Good
social
picture
media
to
that
use.
she posted up on the walls, desks, etc.
Helga.
Being a DJ, his appearance schedule must remain public, so she could technically find him working at nightclubs anytime she wants to. In this last one, a viewer who wanted to be referred to as Christian received multiple emails that he wanted me to share in a story video. Christian has a friend named Katie who was out for a job interview. They used to be co-workers, which is how they met. Nothing was out of the ordinary until Christian started to try and contact Katie after her interview was supposed to be done, only to find that his texts weren't delivering and calls were going straight to voicemail. It was very possible that her phone could have been off or she had no cell service, but as hours passed and still nothing was delivering, he started to get concerned. He saw an email from Katie's old work email. He opened it, and it read, "Hey, I lost my phone and keys. Can you come pick me up? I'm by some old warehouse construction-looking building in the parking lot across from a Hyatt place."
It's a trap.
Christian asked when she last had her phone and if she had any idea how she lost it. She replied, "I have no idea. Just come soon, please. It's cold." The address that she then sent to better help Christian get to her said it was 20 minutes away. But looking at the location of the address on the map, it led to some abandoned-looking warehouse parking lot, evident by the green growing in the parking lot and decaying-looking rooftop. Christian sent another email back, demanding she go to a less sketchy pickup point. She took a few minutes to answer back with, "I'm already sitting on a bench here. I'm comfortable, just please hurry." Christian got in his car and started following the directions to the location he was told to go. But about halfway there, he stopped the car when he had a thought. And that was, how is she using her laptop to email him in the middle of some random parking lot by an abandoned warehouse? While it was maybe possible that there was some free Optimum Wi-Fi nearby or something, it did seem very unlikely. This is where Christian became suspicious of the whole thing, and the fact that she was using her laptop to contact him instead of going to the hotel across the street and calling him just made it seem more suspicious. He tried calling her number a few times, and now it was ringing instead of going to voicemail. On his third try, the phone rang twice and somebody picked up for a second, though most likely on accident. By this point, Christian was suspicious all of Katie's things were stolen. He called Katie's brother to tell him about the situation and ask his opinion.
Chris, kind of smart.
First thing, have you heard from Katie? Katie's brother said she had been home for 2 hours, and that her entire backpack and phone were stolen. Christian yelled into the phone that he was being led into some sketchy parking lot at that very moment by someone who was on Katie's email, most likely on her laptop. Christian drove to Katie's house immediately to pick the two of them up, and they called her
but it was an
left
elaborate trap.
All 3 of them yelling threats of what they
The real Katie was at the
the
bench.
phone and laptop.
Those were the
Probably
criminals.
went unheard if the thief didn't have her passcode. They also sent a number of texts which went unresponded to. After calling the police and requesting assistance in the parking lot, a police car did show up, but the entire parking lot was abandoned as expected, and no further emails were received. Christian may have avoided being lured into some kind of trap that would have led to him being robbed or harmed.
Yep, true. Good work, Christian. Well, there was nothing paranormal there, so it wasn't scary. No ghosts, no spooks.